Hi everybody, I'm Ruth Royal. I'm with Youth Pledge for Employers, and I'm delighted today to be talking to Caroline Rutherford, who's charity manager at Just 42. Hello Caroline.
Hi Ruth.
Hi. So first of all, tell us a bit about the organisation that you work for.
Okay, so Just 42 is a youth and children's work charity based in Woodbridge. We have three main areas of work. We have a children's work coordinator who coordinates all our children's work, and we're a Christian charity, so that work is very much Christian based, and we currently run 5 primary school kids clubs, either at lunchtimes or after school. And then prior to COVID, we were also running a number of assemblies each week in 12 different schools locally, and we're hoping that they get back to normal soon. And then also, as part of the children's work, we run 1 or 2 holiday clubs every year for a few days in the school holidays for primary age children. Then we have our youth clubs. We're based in Woodbridge, and we run 4 youth clubs in rural villages around Woodbridge. So we run one at Sutton Heath, one at a little village called Alderton, one in Grunsborough and one in Hoseley, and they run weekly during term time, and we have a team of youth workers that go out and run youth clubs. They are simply they're held in the village hall, and they might have sports, games, crafts, cooking, all sorts of different activities go on in those, and they're open to any young person that lives within that village or around. And we're just about to open up a new youth club in Orford. It's about as far from our office as we can get out onto the peninsula, and we're just going to start that in September, just on a monthly basis initially, so that's exciting. And then we also run a mentoring programme, where we use a team of volunteer mentors, and a few of us in the office also mentor. We have a paid coordinator who coordinates the whole project, mostly run in Farlingay High School, which is our local Woodbridge High School, but also we offer it in Kesgrave High School too. So that sees us mentor or support kind of 70 to 80 young people across the school year, and they're met on a one-to-one basis with their volunteer for anything between 6, 12, 20 plus meetings. Basically, we support them until they're ready to stop. And it could be for all sorts of different reasons. It could be that they're struggling at school, could be that family life is really complicated, could be that their confidence levels are low, could be things like anger management, bereavement, eating disorders, all sorts of issues come up.
Really broad then.
Yes, really broad. But really great project, and the team of volunteers, they're all local volunteers. We're enabling them to kind of make a difference in their community in a way that they wouldn't be able to do on their own. So we do offer it at Kesgrave High School, but we're about to advertise a position so that we have 2 people coordinating the project, and one will take on the second high school and try and develop the project there. So that's exciting as well, to be expanding that work too. So they're the main 3 areas: the children's work, youth clubs, and the mentoring. And then we also do some other bits and pieces. We run a transitions project with all the local year 6s that are feeding into Farlingay, and that happens during the spring and the summer term, where we visit each of the local primary schools and run sessions with the year 6s to help them be less worried about their transition to secondary school, and to kind of come at it from a different perspective. So the schools very much prepare them for or they hope to prepare them for kind of the schoolwork and the education side of things. But we go in and try and do it from a well-being point of view and prepare them for the different aspects of how life is going to be different. And we also go in and run, ordinarily we would, prior to COVID, we were running a babysitting course once or twice a year in Farlingay, but that hasn't come back yet, and some other projects in school too. So that's the main body of work that we do, and then we have some kind of shorter one-off projects that we sometimes run as well.
And that's really broad, isn't it? Though it's got a very strong focus, obviously, around children and young people.
Yeah.
How many people are actually employed by the organisation overall, or working volunteers?
Yeah. So we have a core team, which is our kind of the main people that work in the office. There's myself, the charity manager, an administrator. Then we have our schools work and campus mentoring coordinator, the children's coordinator, and the youth work coordinator. So there's 5 of us, and then in addition to that, there's currently 6 people that work with us on a part-time basis who come in and run work in the youth clubs. So most of them actually have other work on a full-time basis and then just come and work for us in the evenings.
Oh, fantastic.
But 2 of them are, one of them was our apprentice in, I think, 2015. So she did an apprenticeship with us, then went and found full-time work elsewhere, but stayed with us. And in fact, now she's got 2 children, so she doesn't work during the day, but continues to work with us in the evenings. And then another one, I think she did, it was set up a bit like an apprenticeship, but it was called a trainee position, trainee youth worker, and she did that in about 2017, 2018. And again, she's working full-time elsewhere, but has continued working in our clubs.
Brilliant. Oh, that is great. And in your role as charity manager, what sort of things do you do as charity manager?
So basically, I pretty much say to people that I pretty much do everything other than the face-to-face youth work, although I do mentoring. I think that keeps me connected to young people, so I generally have one mentee on the go at any time, but also it really helps because I'm the person that's responsible for meeting with potential new volunteers, so I can really speak from experience about how that project works and what it's like to be a mentor. But basically my responsibilities are, I'm a bit like an office manager. I run the office. A bit like an HR, human resources manager. I'm responsible for the staff team and recruiting them. Volunteer manager. I do fundraising by applying for grants. We also run fundraising events, so myself and the administrator work on that together. I oversee the finance.
Wow.
What else do I do? So I mean, every day is different, to be honest. Lots of different, and then lots of different kind of local networking meetings, or I might go to a meeting. I did one yesterday that was a Suffolk-wide kind of youth focused meeting, but I also go to East Suffolk meetings. I go to Woodbridge things. So a lot of that is not just about what the topic of conversation is, but it's about who's there and networking opportunities and keeping in touch with local partners or people that we work with, or counsellors and people like that. So there's a lot of different meeting and talking to people.
In your role, what do you think sort of the top 3 most useful skills are? If you had to narrow it down. I mean, because you've got such a broad remit.
Yes, I think communication. So that, I mean, I do a lot of, I think there's less on the phone now, but more by email. So a lot of communicating by email, and then speaking to people in meetings or networking. I think the oversight management, so it's kind of project management. I'm like the go-between in a charity. You have trustees that run the charity on a strategic kind of basis, and I attend those meetings. So I'm the kind of go-between the trustees and the staff team. So I not only manage the staff, the 5 staff team. So I think that's another skill, but a lot of that is to do with communication as well. And number 3, I suppose being responsible and overseeing the finance, the funding, fundraising, events, that area as well. But a lot of that is to do with community. I mean, I think a lot of the job is communication, especially when you think about it.
I'm sure that's, I can completely see that in all of those aspects. You've got to communicate effectively, whether or not that's in writing or whether or not that's spoken, and meeting people, all of those things. What sort of career journey did you have into sort of charity management? What did you do to sort of get into that type of role?
Okay. Well, when I studied at university, I wanted to move to London, to move with, at that point, my boyfriend. So I just needed to find a job in London, and I fell into, by no great plan, a role as a financial advisor. So that was back in the early 90s. So I did that for 10 years, got married, had 2 children, then stopped working for a few years, and then moved to Suffolk. And so then when I was looking to work, to kind of restart work, this local charity was advertising for an administrator. So I applied for that as my first kind of job back, when my little girl was 2, and did that on a part-time basis, obviously totally different to what I'd done before. And then my manager, who was basically the charity manager at that time, announced he was leaving, and I applied for his job. So I'd been administrator for 3 years, and then I've been in my role for 12 years this year.
Oh wow, that's brilliant.
But alongside my working life, I'd always been involved in youth work. So I had, at church, I had got involved with a summer camp that ran in the summer holidays, where we took young people away for a week and stayed in a boarding school, and I was on the kind of organising committee for that. And then for a 3 or 4 years, my husband and I actually led one, and so I suppose the kind of youth work had been there for a number of years. Had always been involved with that in my spare time as a volunteer. So then when I applied for the role as administrator, I was sort of bringing a youth work kind of thread, and I was actually self-employed as a financial advisor, so I had to do all my own administration, and so I kind of brought that experience and landed in the charity sector, and haven't looked back.
Oh, that's brilliant. I'm interested in your thoughts on, because that's a really interesting reflection for me, in terms of like how volunteering has actually influenced your job, your journey, your career journey. I wonder, what are your thoughts on the benefits of volunteering in a sector that you want to go into?
I think it does give you a huge amount of experience in a different world. I think also it just is really good for your well-being to have another strand to life that isn't work. It gets you out, you meet new people, you interact with different people, you gain different experiences. And I've known a number of people that have taken something on as a voluntary role to help them make a career change, or give them some different experience so that they can look at changing work, changing jobs. So I think it really is key. And I think a lot of employers definitely like seeing that people have volunteered and they've experienced the world in a different way. So I think it really is very valuable. Definitely.
That's brilliant, thank you. And in terms of, I mean, I find that really interesting, like you say. So it's interesting that people do sort of go ahead and volunteer, isn't it, in certain areas, and then end up use that as an opportunity to get in there. I know you're recruiting at the moment for a youth work apprentice.
Yes.
What sort of qualities and attributes are you looking for a youth work apprentice?
Well, someone that wants to start very kind of early steps in youth work, or it could lead on to something like social work. I think the key is you've got to be really good with people. You've got to be a people person. Our youth worker will, their main area of work will be working and supporting the people that work in our youth clubs. So they would be very much involved in the running of the 4 rural youth clubs. And then a little bit, possibly they'd get involved in some of the schools work with the transitions project, possibly with the mentoring. So you've got to be good with people. You can't be a kind of necessarily shy, quiet type. You've got to be happy with getting involved, getting alongside young people and making a difference, really. And then along that, there's obviously quite a lot of studying to do with an apprenticeship. So you've got to be pretty motivated to, get yourself studying. Some of it is within paid time, but I think you've just got to be happy to be reading and learning, and not just learning from the coursework, but actually from those around you. I think one of the strengths of that role for us is that the person that joins us will be working with a number of different people. So they'll be partly in the office in the afternoons working with the core team, but then in each of the youth clubs they're working with different leaders, so they would be able to watch how those people interact with the young people, what kind of activities they run, how they react in different situations when there's kind of challenging behaviour. And I think they'll be able to pick up a lot of practical tips from watching the team work.
Oh, that's really helpful, thank you. That's really interesting to understand that. What sort of finally, if I were to ask you, if you were to go back and see your younger self, what piece of advice would you give yourself in terms of your career?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I'm not doing at all what I set out to do. When I was leaving university, I actually applied for graduate positions with retail companies, and I wasn't successful. So I just kind of launched into, as I said, I kind of fell into the financial world. I think it really is important that you do something that you enjoy. I can't say that the work I did for 10 years as a financial advisor, I think I kind of enjoyed it, but it wasn't really what I wanted to do. And then I think finding a role then that felt meaningful because it was supporting a charity doing work that I felt was meaningful, rather than kind of trying to line someone's pockets. And I think it makes a huge difference that you do what you enjoy. And I think even for when you're looking at what you study, and I remember saying to my kids about choosing A levels, you're going to spend quite a lot of time on 3 subjects. You've got to enjoy what you're going to do. And I think it's the same with work, isn't it? You've got to, it's not just about earning the money and survival. It is actually about enjoying the work that you do and being motivated to get up in the morning and get to work and get involved in what you're doing and make it more than just earning money. So go for what you enjoy, I think it would be my advice.
That was lovely, Caroline. Thank you so much for joining us today. That's absolutely brilliant. I really enjoyed meeting you. Thank you.
Thank you.